Hello, my name is Natalia Porsche. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And in this video, we will discuss factors that the Chancery Court judge, family court judge in Mississippi must take into consideration in order deciding who gets the custody of the child or of the children, right? If there are several children in the family, for example. So, for instance, we have a divorce proceeding pending and both parties file for a temporary hearing for the judge to determine, asking the chancellor to determine who gets custody while this divorce matter is pending, right? Or it will be shared custody, or it will be sole physical and legal custody. So the judge will decide who gets the custody during the temporary hearing, let's say, or the judge will decide who gets the custody after final divorce is done, right? After divorce is finalized. So in Mississippi, in the state of Mississippi, family court judge, we call them chancellors, will take into consideration several very important factors. We call them Albright factors. Those factors are very important, and the judge will look at each factor and determine which party wins the factor, right? And if the factor is mutual, for example, one of the factors is emotional ties of the child or children to one or both parents. Let's say if the child has emotional ties with each parent, then this factor is neutral. Therefore, none of the party will win, right? We don't have a winner, although this is not a game. And although it feels like that a lot of times in court, which is so wrong in my opinion, but it is what it is. And the judge will take each factor into consideration in determining who wins the custody. Okay, so the first factor, we have three little factors in the first factor category under Albright factors. It is child's age, health, and gender. Okay, so let's say if we have a little girl, baby girl, who is only 18 months old and she's more attached to her mom, therefore mom can win this factor, right? If we have a boy and the boy is more attached to his dad, then this factor goes towards in dad's favor, right? However, here also the other factor which is very important in this factors number one paragraph or category is the health of the child, right? Let's say if mom is a nurse and the child has a problem, let's say bad one, diabetes, and I hope that none of you guys have children with diabetes. However, let's say if the child has diabetes and mom is a nurse and she helps to care for the child, let's say she gives him or her injections. Therefore, of course, this factor goes in favor of mom. Why? Because she's a nurse and she can help anytime, right? She qualifies, although she's not an expert who can testify in this case because she's the party. However, she will win this factor, okay? So again, first category of factors under Albright, we have child's age, health, and gender. Factor number two, continuity of care prior to separation of the parties. Let's say, for instance, we have two parties who've been residing together with a child, and mom was caring for a child during, cohabitation or during marriage, and mom was primary care provider, right? And dad was working all the time, or the other way around. So now we have situation where mom will win or dad will win this factor because the factor goes towards in favor of the person, of the party who had a continuity of care of the child prior to separation. Okay, so this is factor number two under Albright factors. Now we have factor number three, parenting skills. Here, what is very helpful if we have a parent who is willing to complete an education, right? Some sort of parental classes, some sort of breastfeeding classes to educate himself or herself how to do it, to become almost an expert in parental skills. So here we have factor, Albright factor. The third factor is parenting skills. Here, usually this factor is neutral because both parties want to be great parents. They are willing to take classes and show that they have a great parental skills. Also, if there is another child that, let's say husband or a wife has a child from previous marriage and she or he has a full custody of this child. Therefore, of course, this can be a great evidence to show to the judge, to the chancellor, that, hey, look, I have another child and I have a primary custody of the child. Therefore, this factor goes towards my favor because I have a prior experience and I'm an expert now in parental skills, right? Expert in changing diapers sometimes. So now next factor is capacity to provide primary care. Here, the judge will look at who has time to provide a primary care, who wants to provide a primary care, right? Usually at this point, both parties will make substantial improvement in employment. Let's say they will change the employment hours, but judge also will look at the employment hours here, right? To accommodate the best interest of the child. And at the end of the day, this is the main factor that the judge will take into consideration. What is the best interest of the child? Why the child should stay with one person or the other, right? So of course, child's best interest will be the main factor. Now we have employment of both parties. Again, if we have, for example, dad working from 8 to 3, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., we have mom who is working 11 to 11, she's a nurse. Of course, this factor will favor dad. Why? Because if the child is in the daycare, dad can pick the child up and take the child home and do a meal, prepare a meal for the child while mom is still at work. So this factor likely will favor a person who's got very normal standard working hours, let's say 8 to 5 or 9 to 5. Also, if there is a nanny available, daycare available, also this can be taken into consideration. Next, physical and mental health of the parties, right? So here, the judge will look at physical and mental health, any prior incidents, let's say, any major health issues that one party or the other might have, mental or psychological, if the person is taking some kind of medical, let's say, pills or, to regulate emotional state. So this, what the judge will look at, if there is a prior, let's say, a history of depression, history of bipolar disorder, and etc. diseases, unfortunately. Next, judge will look at emotional ties between both parents and the child. Let's say between one parent of the child and another parent of the child, right? So usually this factor is neutral because usually, based on my professional experience, both parents, they want to be close to the child, especially when the child is very young. They're very protective for the child, and when it goes into a custody battle, then definitely both parents they willing to provide a majority of the primary care to the child, and that therefore they will show that they have a very strong ties with the child. Next, we have a moral fitness. Here, the judge will look at any criminal record, drug use, and yes, guys, keep in mind, drug use is biggie one. What you need to remember is if you go to your hearing, temporary hearing, and another party alleges the drug use, you will be tested then and there. And usually, if the judge tests one person, the judge tests both parents. Okay, so be ready when you go for your temporary hearings, final hearings. Usually it's a temporary hearings that when the judge will test a person for drugs. Okay, then and there in the courtroom. So watch out for that. Now, home, school, and community record. Here the judge will look at who is participating with a child, let's say in the soccer games, who takes the child to a cheerleading practice, right? Who provide the child with their free time, right? Taking the child to extracurricular activity, who is paying for extracurricular activity, right? So this is what the judge will look at in deciding whether one or the other parent is gonna win this factor. Now, child preference here in the state of Mississippi, if the child is over the age of 12, the judge will ask child preference with whom child would like to be. And also I will make another video about modification of the child custody, right? If one of the parents would like to modify if there were substantial changes in circumstances. Therefore, the judge will look at the preference of the child, which is a factor for modification. So if the child is older than 12, therefore the judge will look at the whether the child is willing to stay with one parent or the other. An affidavit of parental selection can be submitted on behalf of the child. Now, home environment stability. Here the judge is going to look whether you own the house where you live with the child, where the child has been living in the same household and one of the parent moved out. So the judge is going to look where is going to be more comfortable for the child to live. If the child been living in one household for 8 years and now dad moved out, child stayed in the same household with mom, of course this factor will weigh in the favor of mom, will be favored to mom, because that's all the child knows. That's the house where the child grew up. Okay, so other relevant factors. What can be other relevant factors? Any other relevant factor, like I said, best interest of the child is the main factor. If you can connect to any other evidence, any other factor to this best interest of the child. For example, if the child has a sibling, right? So the child has a sibling. Let's say we have a mom who had a prior child, and now this another child is in custody dispute, right? So the judge will see whether mom has a previous custody of the child, who is not in a dispute here, right, in this custody battle. And what the judge will do is see if she has a custody, and if she does, then likely the judge will give her a favor in this factor, right? She will get that factor in her favor, because in Mississippi, very rare the judges like to separate siblings, okay, unless it's not in the best of interest of the child that the siblings remain together. Okay, so I hope this video was helpful to you guys. Again, subscribe to my channel, put thumbs up if you like this video, and I like to do educational videos on YouTube. Again, guys, remember, this is educational video only. Always contact the experienced family law attorney in your jurisdiction, license in jurisdiction where you have your issues. Again, this video was about Mississippi custody and how chancellor will divide custody of the children of the child between two parents, and of course the chancellor will apply Albright factors based on Albright versus Albright case, and of course best interest of the child will be main factor always. Thank you for watching this video. Goodbye.